Here's something that'll keep you up tonight. The people manipulating you most effectively are the ones you'd never suspect. They're not the loud antagonists or the obvious villains. They're the quiet ones, the understanding ones, the ones who make you question your own reality while appearing completely reasonable. I've spent years studying behavioral psychology, and what I'm about to share will fundamentally change how you see your interactions with others. Before we dive deep into this rabbit hole, do me a favor. If you want to become psychologically untouchable and learn tactics that genuinely protect your mental space, hit that subscribe button and drop a like. Trust me, this information doesn't just help you understand manipulation, it helps you become immune to it. Now, let's expose the tactics that are being used on you right now, probably by someone you trust. Section 1. The illusion of choice. Let's start with something most people never notice: false autonomy. Here's how it works. Someone gives you two options, and both feel like your choice. But here's the catch: they benefit no matter what you pick. Think about it. Your manager says, "Would you rather take on Project A this week or Project B?" Sounds fair, right? You're being given a choice. But wait, who decided you had to take on an extra project at all? You never agreed to that. You just agreed to pick between two burdens, and somehow you feel like you participated in the decision. This tactic is everywhere: relationships, workplaces, friendships. Do you want to talk about this now or later? Seems reasonable until you realize you never wanted to have that conversation in the first place. But now you're locked in. The manipulator has created a frame where resistance looks unreasonable. And the most dangerous part? You'll defend their choice later because you feel like it was yours. The psychology behind this is called the illusion of control. When we believe we've made a decision, we're exponentially more committed to the outcome, even when the decision framework was designed to trap us. Robert Cialdini's research on influence shows that perceived choice is one of the most powerful tools for gaining compliance. The person wielding this tactic isn't forcing you. They're guiding you into a corner you can't see until you're already there. Section 2. Manufactured urgency. Number 2 is what I call manufactured urgency, and it's playing on one of your brain's deepest vulnerabilities. Here's the setup. Someone creates an artificial deadline or emergency that pressures you into making a decision before you can think it through. I need to know by tonight. This opportunity won't last. If you really cared, you'd do this now. Notice what's happening. They're weaponizing time against you. Here's why this works so devastatingly well. Your brain has two decision-making systems. System 1 is fast, automatic, and emotional. System 2 is slow, analytical, and logical. When someone creates urgency, they're deliberately triggering your System 1, bypassing your rational mind entirely. You're not thinking, you're reacting. And reactions are far easier to control than thoughtful decisions. I've seen this destroy relationships and careers. Someone pressures you into lending money just for a few days because of an emergency that somehow always extends. A partner demands you choose between them and your friends right now because they're tired of waiting. A colleague needs your help on something urgent that conveniently becomes your responsibility. The pattern is always the same: rush you, pressure you, make waiting seem like betrayal or weakness. The antidote? Slow down. Real emergencies are rare. Most urgent situations can wait 24 hours for a response. The moment someone tells you there's no time to think, that's exactly when you need to take time to think. Because if the offer is genuine, it'll still be there tomorrow. If it's manipulation, it'll evaporate the moment you create space. Section 3. Progressive commitment. Here's one that's almost invisible. Progressive commitment. This is the slow burn. They don't ask for everything at once. Instead, they start with something small, something you'd never refuse. Then gradually, request by request, they escalate. Before you know it, you're doing things you never would have agreed to initially, but you can't see the trap because you walked into it one tiny step at a time. Let me paint a picture. A friend asks to borrow your car for an hour. No big deal, right? Next time, it's for the afternoon, then the whole day, then overnight. Suddenly, you're their personal car rental service, and when you finally push back, they act confused. But you've always let me borrow it before. Why are you being difficult now? See what happened? Each small yes created an expectation, a precedent. Now saying no feels like you're the one breaking an agreement you never actually made. This tactic exploits what psychologists call the foot in the door phenomenon. Once we've said yes to something small, we're dramatically more likely to agree to larger requests because we want our behavior to remain consistent with our previous actions. We don't want to see ourselves as inconsistent or unreliable. So we keep saying yes, even when it hurts us, because we've already invested so much. The defense? Treat each request as a standalone decision. Don't let past compliance dictate future choices. Just because you said yes yesterday doesn't mean you owe anyone yes today. Section 4. Selective victimhood. Now we get into darker territory. Selective victimhood. This person has perfected the art of being hurt at precisely the right moments. You set a boundary. They're devastated. You prioritize yourself. They're abandoned. You call out their behavior. They're under attack. Every attempt you make to stand up for yourself becomes evidence of how cruel you are. What makes this particularly insidious is that their pain might be genuine. They might actually feel hurt. But here's the manipulation. They've learned to weaponize that hurt to control you. The tears, the wounded voice, the stories of past trauma, it all serves one purpose: making you feel guilty for having needs, boundaries, or expectations. I want to be clear about something. Genuine vulnerability is healthy. Sharing pain is human. But when someone's vulnerability only appears when they're being held accountable, that's not vulnerability. That's strategy. When their emotional displays consistently result in you backing down, apologizing, or abandoning your own needs, you're not in a relationship based on mutual care. You're in a dynamic built on emotional hostage-taking. The test is simple. Do their emotions lead to growth and mutual understanding? Or do they lead to you silencing yourself? If it's the latter, you're dealing with selective victimhood, and it's one of the most exhausting forms of manipulation because it disguises itself as sensitivity. Section 5. Reality distortion. Number 5. Reality distortion. This isn't gaslighting in the dramatic sense. It's subtler. They'll rewrite history in small ways, tweaking facts, adjusting timelines, reframing events until you're no longer sure what actually happened. I never said that. You're remembering it wrong. That's not how it happened at all. And they say it with such confidence that you start doubting your own memory. Here's the terrifying truth. Human memory is already unreliable. We don't record events like video cameras. We reconstruct them every time we remember, and each reconstruction can introduce errors. Manipulators exploit this vulnerability. By consistently presenting an alternative version of events with absolute certainty, they plant seeds of doubt in your mind. Over time, those seeds grow into full-blown confusion about what's real. I've watched this destroy people's confidence. They stop trusting their own perceptions. They defer to the manipulator's version of events because fighting about reality is exhausting. And maybe, just maybe, they really are remembering wrong. But here's what I've learned from studying this pattern. If you consistently feel confused about interactions with a specific person, if you find yourself constantly questioning your memory around them, that's not a you problem. That's a them strategy. Section 6. Contrast manipulation. Let's talk about contrast manipulation. This tactic uses comparison to make something unacceptable seem reasonable. They'll show you something worse first, so their actual request looks tame by comparison. Your partner is consistently cold and distant, ignoring your messages for days. Then suddenly, they send a one-word reply. And somehow, you feel grateful. You feel like things are improving, because compared to complete silence, a breadcrumb feels like a feast. This is your brain's comparative nature being exploited. We don't evaluate situations in absolute terms. We evaluate them relative to alternatives. A manipulator knows this, so they'll create a terrible baseline, then offer something slightly less terrible, and you'll accept it as progress. You're not actually happy. You're just less miserable than you were at the lowest point they created. This shows up everywhere. Bosses who rage and scream until normal speaking volume feels like kindness. Friends who betray you, then simply not betraying you feels like loyalty. Partners who cheat, then merely flirting with others seems acceptable. The bar drops so low that you forget what healthy actually looks like. Section 7. Information asymmetry. Finally, information asymmetry. This manipulator controls what you know, and when you know it. They'll withhold crucial information until it's too late for you to make an informed decision. Or they'll reveal things strategically to keep you off balance. Maybe they don't tell you about a party until the day before, so you can't plan properly. Maybe they share major life decisions only after they've already made them, forcing you to react rather than participate. This tactic is about power through knowledge. When someone controls information, they control your ability to make autonomous decisions. You're always operating with incomplete data, always guessing, always reacting, and that keeps you dependent on them for understanding what's really happening. Meanwhile, they have the full picture and can manipulate circumstances to their advantage. The most sophisticated version of this involves flooding you with information, overwhelming you with details, explanations, and data until you can't process it all. Then, buried in that flood, is the one piece that matters, the one thing they don't want you to notice. By the time you've sorted through everything else, the moment to object has passed. Conclusion. Here's what I need you to understand. These tactics work because they're subtle. They don't announce themselves. They creep into your relationships so gradually that you don't recognize them until you're already caught. But now you know the patterns. And knowledge is the first line of defense. When you can name what's happening, you take away its power. When someone tries conversational judo, you can see the redirect. When they manufacture urgency, you can create space. When they distort reality, you can trust your own memory. You're no longer playing a game where only they know the rules. But here's my challenge to you. Don't just use this information defensively. Use it to become someone who builds trust instead of exploiting it. Because the world already has enough manipulators. What it needs is people who recognize these patterns and choose connection over control, honesty over strategy, genuine relationship over tactical advantage. If this video changed how you see your relationships, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment telling me which tactic you've experienced. I read every single one. And remember, the most powerful thing you can do is trust yourself. Your intuition knows when something feels off. Stop overriding it to be polite or to keep the peace. Your inner voice isn't paranoid. It's protective. Listen to it. Stay sharp. Stay aware. And never let anyone make you doubt your own reality. I'll see you in the next one.